The Young and the Restless Spoilers Shock, The Shadow of Betrayal, Aristotle Dumas, Adam Newman, and the hidden war for Victor's empire in the glittering world of Genoa City, where empires rise and fall on whispered secrets and clandestine alliances. None looms larger than the dominion of Victor Newman. Yet even as Victor consolidates his power, a darker threat gathers in the shadows, one that originates not from an external rival, but from within his own bloodline. At the heart of this covert conflict stands Aristotle Dumas, a name shrouded in mystery and fear, and the man behind it, Adam Newman. The legend of Aristotle Dumas. For years, rumors swirled through the corridors of Newman Enterprises and the salons of the Genoa City elite about a figure known only as Aristotle Dumas. Whispers painted him as a master manipulator, a puppet master whose mere mention sent chills down the spines of Victor's most loyal lieutenants. It was said that Dumas had engineered corporate takeovers with surgical precision and had once driven a rival media magnate to the brink of madness. Some even claimed that Dumas's influence extended beyond business into the criminal underworld, a phantom presence pulling strings from afar. Victor, ever vigilant, had made it his personal mission to unmask and neutralize this elusive adversary. Yet despite extensive investigations spanning private detectives, corporate spies, and digital forensics, Aristotle Dumas remained an enigma. Some believed he dwelled in a penthouse in Manhattan, others whispered of a private island in the Caribbean. But Nikki Newman, Victor's wife and confidant, sensed that the true terror of Dumas lay not in his distant machinations, but in his nearness, closer than anyone could have imagined. Nikki's fateful eavesdropping. It was a quiet afternoon at the Newman ranch when Nikki stumbled upon the revelation that would shatter her world. She had come to Adam Newman's office to discuss charity work, but the door was slightly ajar, and she heard raised voices. Intrigued, she paused just beyond the threshold. "And once father is out of the picture," Adam was saying in a low, fervent tone, "I will assume control of the empire. They'll never see it coming." A pause, then Adam's voice softened, almost conspiratorial, "As Aristotle Dumas, I've already laid the groundwork. The shareholders, the board, everyone believes they're answering to a phantom. Soon, they'll answer to me." Nikki's heart pounded. Aristotle Dumas was not an outsider at all, but her own son. Adam Newman, the youngest scion of the Newman dynasty, had been masquerading as this shadowy figure, building an underground network to usurp his father's power. The realization struck her like a thunderbolt. Victor's greatest threat had been in their midst all along. The roots of Adam's ambition. To understand Adam's transformation into Aristotle Dumas, one must look back at his turbulent history. Born into privilege, Adam Newman grew up in the shadow of his father's colossal achievements. While Victor built an empire from nothing, Adam struggled to carve out his own identity. His childhood was marked by a desperate need for approval, followed by bitter resentment when he felt overshadowed by his father's accomplishments and his siblings' successes. As Adam matured, he exhibited flashes of brilliance, innovative business ideas, an uncanny ability to read people, and a strategic mind honed by years of observing Victor's tactics. Yet each time he proposed bold initiatives, Victor's skepticism and reluctance to cede control stifled his ambitions. The tension between father and son escalated, culminating in Adam's departure from Newman Enterprises years ago. In exile, Adam found mentors in unexpected places. Disgraced executives, rogue financiers, and even figures from the criminal underworld. Under their tutelage, he honed his skills in covert operations, corporate espionage, and psychological warfare. He adopted the nom de guerre Aristotle Dumas, a persona designed to evoke classical wisdom and clandestine power. From hidden servers and encrypted channels, Dumas orchestrated proxy takeovers, silent boardroom coups, and smear campaigns that destabilized Victor's rivals, each operation a rehearsal for the ultimate goal, dethroning his father. Nikki's dilemma, loyalty versus survival. Armed with the knowledge of her son's duplicity, Nikki Newman faced an agonizing choice. To expose Adam would mean shattering her family and delivering a crushing blow to Victor, perhaps even precipitating his downfall. Yet to remain silent would allow Adam's conspiracy to proceed unchecked, endangering the Newman legacy and the livelihoods of thousands of employees. Nikki sought counsel from her closest allies. She confided in Paul Williams, the family attorney, who urged her to gather concrete evidence before confronting Victor. She spoke with Ashley Abbott, who offered her unwavering support and reminded her of the importance of family unity. Throughout her deliberations, Nikki wrestled with her maternal instincts and her duty as Victor's partner. The battle lines are drawn meanwhile. Adam Newman, ever the strategist, accelerated his campaign. Under the guise of Dumas, he manipulated key shareholders to call for an emergency vote of no confidence in Victor. He orchestrated a leak of internal documents suggesting financial irregularities at Newman Enterprises, sowing distrust among the board. He even recruited sympathetic members of the press to run exposés on Victor's mismanagement. Victor, initially caught off guard, responded with characteristic force. He deployed forensic accountants to audit every department, installed new cybersecurity protocols, and publicly declared his intent to root out the saboteurs. Yet with each move, Adam anticipated his father's response, countering with deeper infiltration and more insidious rumors. The corporate battlefield was set ablaze. A mother's revelation determined to prevent the coup, Nikki arranged a clandestine meeting with Adam in the privacy of her bedroom at the Newman Ranch. She confronted him with the knowledge of his dual identity. Adam, his facade slipping for the first time, looked at his mother with a mixture of defiance and sorrow. "Mother, you don't understand," he said, voice trembling. "I've lived in your shadow for too long. You and Father treat me like a child, unworthy of the throne. As Dumas, I finally have the power to prove myself." Nikki's eyes filled with tears. "Adam, power without love is hollow. You're tearing this family apart, risking everything your father built. Our legacy, your future. Is that what you want?" Adam hesitated, the conflict raging in his eyes. Yet his ambition, long nurtured by resentment, would not be easily quelled. "I don't want to be a footnote in his story," he whispered. "I want to write my own chapter." The climactic showdown, the climax of this hidden war, came at a shareholders' meeting called to vote on Victor's leadership. The grand ballroom of the Chancellor Winters building was packed with investors, executives, and media. Victor took the stage, flanked by Nikki and his senior team, ready to defend his position. Unbeknownst to him, Adam Newman, alias Aristotle Dumas, sat in the audience, a smug smile on his lips. Nikki, seated in the front row, clutched a flash drive containing Adam's confessions and the digital trail of his manipulations. As the meeting commenced, she rose to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady but charged with emotion. "I regret to inform you that the allegations against my husband are based on a deliberate and orchestrated campaign of deceit, perpetrated not by an outsider, but by someone you know all too well." Murmurs swept through the crowd as Nikki explained Adam's double life, presenting damning evidence of his role as Aristotle Dumas. The room erupted in stunned outrage. Adam rose to defend himself, but his words were drowned out by the roar of betrayal. Victor, eyes blazing, descended from the stage and confronted his son. "You dared to build a phantom empire in my name," he growled. "But you underestimated one thing, the strength of family." With the shareholders' support restored and Adam's plot exposed, the vote went overwhelmingly in Victor's favor. Adam, stripped of his power and standing, was led away by security, his dream of succession in ruins. Aftermath: a family fractured in the wake of the showdown, the Newman family was left to pick up the pieces. Adam's betrayal had left scars that would not heal easily. Nikki, heartbroken by her son's actions, withdrew into quiet reflection. Victor, though victorious, found little satisfaction in triumph. The knowledge that his own blood had conspired against him weighed heavily on him. Yet amid the sorrow, there was hope. Nikki and Victor renewed their commitment to each other, vowing to rebuild trust and safeguard their legacy. They reached out to Adam, offering him a chance at redemption, but on terms that required genuine remorse and a willingness to rebuild relationships, not just empires. As for Aristotle Dumas, the legend lived on. but now it was a cautionary tale of unchecked ambition and the perils of usurping power without conscience. In Genoa City, the greatest threat often comes from within, and the only way to overcome it is through honesty, forgiveness, and the unbreakable bonds of family. The final coup. Eavesdropping, deception, and the shattering of trust in the shadowy corridors of Newman Enterprises, where power is earned through cunning and betrayal. Adam Newman, alias Aristotle Dumas, prepared to execute his most daring maneuver yet. For years, he had labored in secret, building a hidden empire and orchestrating moves that would eventually unseat his father, Victor Newman, from the throne of the family dynasty. Now, with every calculated step hinging on the success of this coup, Adam knew that a single misstep could prove fatal. On the evening of the final meeting, a gathering of top executives and influential shareholders meant to herald the downfall of Victor, Adam retreated to a secluded corner of his office to make his final preparations. His heart pounded with anticipation and fear. His entire future, his claim to power, rested on the flawless execution of this final act of rebellion. Little did he know that in the very room where he was orchestrating his plan, a pair of watchful ears were capturing every word. Nikki Newman, long familiar with the simmering animosity that had always existed between her and Adam, had followed him discreetly. Although their mutual disdain was common knowledge in Genoa City, Nikki's loyalty to Victor, and her unwavering belief in the sanctity of the family legacy, compelled her to act. Over the years, she had grown increasingly suspicious of Adam's behavior. Whispers in the halls, unexplained absences, and furtive glances had all pointed toward a betrayal that cut deeper than any corporate misstep. Tonight, as she crouched behind a half-closed door, she resolved to uncover the truth once and for all. Adam's voice, low and resolute, filled the quiet room as he laid out the details of his plan. Every word was deliberate, every pause calculated. He spoke of leveraging covert communications, of using anonymous financial channels to divert assets, and of ensuring that the board of directors would soon see him as the only viable alternative to Victor's autocratic rule. He boasted that if all went as planned, the coup would not only discredit Victor but also ensure that Adam's claim to the Newman legacy was unassailable. With the fate of the empire in his hands, Adam knew that any leak, even the smallest whisper, could jeopardize everything. As Adam outlined the final steps of his scheme, his mind was laser-focused on the outcome. He had been careful to cover his tracks, to leave no digital trace or physical evidence that might be used against him. Yet, he could not shake the nagging feeling that someone might be listening in, an instinct born of years of betrayal and high-stakes power plays. His eyes scanned the dimly lit room for signs of intrusion, but all he saw were shadows dancing on the walls. Meanwhile, hidden just outside the doorway, Nikki listened with mounting horror. Every word confirmed her worst fears. Adam's ambition had grown so virulent that he was willing to do anything, even murder his own father, to claim the power he so desperately craved. For Nikki, who had long struggled with her own conflicted feelings toward Adam, this revelation was the final nail in the coffin. It wasn't just a matter of corporate power, it was a betrayal of the family she had sworn to protect. In that moment, Nikki knew she had to act, and quickly. Her fingers trembling, Nikki retreated to her private office and immediately began composing a message to Victor. Every keystroke was laden with urgency and dread. She detailed what she had overheard, the meticulous plan Adam had outlined, and her certainty that he intended to topple Victor and usurp the Newman legacy. But even as she sent the message, a lingering doubt gnawed at her. Victor trusted Adam implicitly, having groomed him as the heir for years. Would he even believe that the son he trusted and nurtured could be capable of such treachery? The minutes that followed were an agonizing wait. Nikki's mind raced with visions of a fractured family, of a legacy tainted by the blood of betrayal. The weight of her decision bore down on her, and she braced herself for the inevitable fallout. As she stepped out of her office to confront Victor, she recalled the many times in the past when Adam's ambitions had clashed with her own ideals. The animosity between them was no secret to anyone in Genoa City, and many had whispered that Nikki had always been predisposed to see Adam as a troublemaker, a liability to the family. Victor, with his relentless drive for power and control, had never questioned Adam's capabilities. In his eyes, Adam was a worthy successor, even if his methods were sometimes harsh. How could he possibly accept that his own flesh and blood was now orchestrating a coup? Back in his private study, Victor Newman pored over quarterly reports and corporate memos, his mind already plotting the next strategic move. When Nikki burst into the room, her face pale and eyes wide with a mix of terror and determination, Victor paused and regarded her silently. "What is it, Nikki?" he demanded in a low, steady tone. Nikki hesitated, then recounted every detail, the clandestine conversation, the calculated plans, and the unmistakable tone of ambition in Adam's voice. "He's preparing for the final move, Victor," she said urgently. "Everything depends on this coup. If it fails, he loses everything. But if it succeeds," her voice trailed off, the implication hanging heavy in the air. Victor's eyes narrowed. A mix of disbelief and fury crossed his features. He had always believed in Adam's potential, had even looked forward to passing the reins of his empire to him one day. Now, the thought that the man he had entrusted with the future of the Newman dynasty could be plotting to kill him, or at least dismantle everything he had built, seemed inconceivable. "You expect me to believe that Adam would go so far as to betray his own father?" Victor asked, his tone laced with incredulity. Nikki's voice was steady, despite the storm raging inside her. "I know how Adam operates, Victor. He's always been willing to use any means necessary to secure power. This isn't a spur-of-the-moment act, it's the culmination of years of resentment, ambition, and carefully hidden plans. And now, he's putting it all on the line." "I overheard every word, every detail." Victor's mind raced as he weighed Nikki's words against his own memories of Adam. He recalled the many instances when Adam had pushed boundaries, when his ambition had led him to take risks that bordered on recklessness. But still, the idea of patricide? Of his own son orchestrating a coup so ruthless it might end his life, was almost too much to accept. His eyes shifted to the window, as if searching for confirmation in the darkened skyline. A tense silence settled between them. Victor's face hardened, and he spoke slowly, deliberately. "If what you say is true, then the implications are staggering. Adam has always been the one I trusted, the one I envisioned as my successor. But if he's willing to kill me, if he's already taken steps that could lead to my downfall, then I must act decisively." His voice was resolute, the calm before an impending storm. Yet a part of Victor's mind harbored suspicion. The history of enmity between Nikki and Adam was no secret. Their mutual dislike was well known among the inner circle of the Newman family. Could it be that Nikki was simply seizing on that long-standing feud to fabricate a scandal? Victor's thoughts turned dark as he considered the possibility that Nikki might be framing Adam in a bid to exact her own form of revenge, a way to tip the scales in the never-ending power struggle that defined their lives. With measured calm, Victor stood and walked toward his desk. He retrieved a secure phone and instructed his most trusted aides to begin an immediate investigation into Adam's recent activities. At the same time, he called for a private meeting with his top advisors to assess the situation and determine the best course of action. Every decision he made now would be critical, not just for his own survival, but for the future of the Newman legacy. As the night deepened, Adam remained oblivious to the fact that his secret had been exposed. Back in his hidden sanctum, he meticulously finalized the last pieces of his plan. Every digital file was encrypted, every communication routed through untraceable channels. He was acutely aware that this coup was his final gamble. The moment when success would transform him into the undisputed ruler of the empire, and failure would render him a pariah, or worse, a target of his own father's wrath. Adam's eyes flicked over the documents one last time, his determination steeling his resolve. He would not allow anything to stand in his way. And yet, a lingering thought haunted him. Was he truly alone in this endeavor, or was there another set of eyes in the shadows, someone as desperate and determined as he was? Unbeknownst to him, the web of deception was already unraveling, and every player in this high-stakes game was about to have their loyalties tested. As Victor and his advisors began piecing together the implications of Nikki's report, the stage was set for a dramatic confrontation that would decide not only the fate of Victor Newman, but the very soul of the Newman dynasty. In the end, the truth would come crashing down in a maelstrom of accusations, shattered trust, and irreversible decisions. Victor was left to wonder whether he had been betrayed by the man he trusted most, or if a vengeful heart had manipulated the narrative to cover its own scars. And as the final showdown loomed on the horizon, one question remained burning in the silence of the Newman estate: would Adam's coup succeed, or would the forces of loyalty and love prove stronger than ambition and deceit? Only time would tell if Victor could untangle the web of lies and determine whether Nikki's revelations were the genuine warning of a devoted guardian, or simply another twist in the relentless saga of betrayal that had defined the Newman family for generations.